NFTs. You heard of them? We all laughed, we all cried at the sheer stupidity of spending thousands of real-life money to own a digital receipt of a PNG of an ugly ass ape. But even in the year 2024, they are still being made. This is absolutely crazy, considering that the value of NFTs dropped so much this past year, with so many of the highest valued collectibles losing more than 90% of its initial price. It's hilarious that rich idiots spent millions of dollars to buy randomly generated pictures to just have it all lose its value and go all the way down to the triple digits. Mwah! You just love to see it. However, in my last video that you should totally watch, I played the absolute hottest trash that exists on the Epic Game Store, and to my complete, utter disbelief, all of them were NFT and crypto games. Who the hell are these people still making NFT games? It's got me so curious to see what survived the NFT apocalypse. So in this series, join me, won't you, on a journey to see the NFT and crypto games that are still being created, the games that have survived, or those left to rot in this post-NFT boom world. Now, I'm going to play these games as an avid gamer myself to see if they can stand on their own legs, and then talk just a little bit about the crypto and NFT side of things to see if it added anything to the game. So, if you're interested, kick back, relax, and enjoy the show. Welcome to the Worst NFT Game? Etherscape, an early access game that can be found on the Epic Game Store. It released pretty recently on the 17th of August 2024. It's a multiplayer, online, roguelite action RPG, and from the trailer it looks like a Diablo game. Or if we're gonna use an MMO example, Realm of the Mad God. You play as an Etherborn, someone who can resurrect on death, giving an in-lore reason for the roguelite elements. Good on them. 1 point. Surely it can only go up from here, right? Scrolling through the store page, the pixel art actually looks pretty dang good. Although the game itself doesn't actually use the style, so false advertising? Who knows? Loot is randomized, of course, and if you etherbound your items, which I assume is turning it into an NFT, it won't be lost on death. Hell yeah! Trivialize major mechanics with NFTs. How fun. It says here that you can earn Coin, which is the cryptocurrency used on the Engine blockchain, by playing the game. But how much though? Because if I get 5 cents worth of Coin in 10 hours, technically I'm still earning Coin. But hey, if I was unemployed, 5 cents would seem pretty good to me. Gotta do what you gotta do. Etherborn also features a shared world multiplayer with seamless co-op and high-intensity roguelike action gameplay. Well, we'll see about that, won't we? It also links to their NFT Marketplace, but we'll look into that after we've played the game. They link to their dev blog too, which seems to be getting updates every month or so that's nice. But as of right now, they have still yet to post one in October. We'll talk about the dev though a little bit later in the video. For now, let's get into the game. The first thing that pops up is that this game is still in alpha, and that the game is still rough around the edges, which I find hard to believe considering they have a fully functioning NFT economy. I would think that would be the last thing on your list to implement, but here we are. The main menu art looks pretty nice though, and if we go by what that one guy claimed about the main menu being indicative of developer effort, then this game is the most effort anyone has ever made ever. 10 out of 10. We still have to create an account though, even though this game can only be played on the Epic Game Store, which is annoying, but whatever. I input a spam email and away we go. I'm shocked this game actually has servers around the globe, but there are hardly anyone playing. In fact, if you combine all the people into one server, it still wouldn't fill it up. Not a good sign. I guess I won't be able to try out the co-op. Oh well. I choose a server, pick a name, and get told to configure a crypto wallet. Luckily, the game gives me the option of creating an in-game temporary one that can be transferred at any point. Good. I have zero intentions of making a crypto wallet. We only have 3 slots for characters, and then we have to pick a class. The game doesn't give me any descriptions, stats, or even the playstyles of any of these classes, so I just have to guess. Luckily, I've played a fantasy RPG or two, so I have a rough idea of what to do. But good luck to anyone who is unfamiliar with the fantasy genre. Since this game has permadeath, I pick warrior since it probably has the highest survivability. Welcome to the Etherscape. I see that this game uses line of sight, which is actually pretty cool. I don't know if this will enhance the game in any way, but I like the effort. The game goes through the controls and tells us to look at the skill tree. Ah yes, this basic ass menu. Every level you get points to put into whatever you want. Not exactly Path of Exile level, but it's fine I guess. Anyways, this layout is the exact same for every class. Top row are activated abilities, next row is damage increases, then defense, and finally utility. There are barely any variations between the classes. I picked the middle skill because it's the only one that does damage. Next I'm told to start a quest. Right into the action. I like that. Also, a fun thing this game does is that the sound of other players can be heard anywhere on the map. So while I was doing this, another player was dashing all over the place and I could hear them full blast on my headphones. Amazing. Truly amazing. Here, we can generate a quest. These slots we can put in items to add modifiers, change the level, faction of enemies, and set if the quest is private. Unfortunately, we can't do that unless we have 200 Imperial Sovereign tokens, which you can buy on the NFT store for 80 cents a piece, which is $16 in total. Wow, NFTs are incredible. Each level is randomly generated and has a quest that needs to be completed in order to progress to the next floor. The dungeon also has a time limit which will kick you out once it runs out and delete the stage. I guess to save on the limited resources of this 2D game. Combat is very simple. You have left click as an attack, space for dash, Q for healing, and your number keys for activated abilities. An odd design choice is that your weapon itself isn't the actual hitbox. Instead, it shoots out a projectile that does damage. So even if you have a weapon that you swing, it won't actually hit multiple enemies. This is so incredibly stupid and removes the entire point of being a melee character. It also doesn't feel satisfying to use, say, a hammer, because it will still act the same as a dagger and shoot out a tiny projectile. Essentially, this makes all weapons act the exact same. Enemies on death can also drop items, so yeah. The game also didn't tell me what these 3 bars were, so good luck to anyone who's playing the game for the first time. But red is health, blue is mana, yellow is stamina. I go around killing enemies and proceed to the next floor. Here, we're told we can press R to return to town, so that's what I do. We get more tutorials, our stash, merchant, and get introduced to the crafting in this game. You can salvage unwanted equipment for materials, then you can craft items, and if the equipment is high enough rarity, you can etherbound/turn them into an NFT. That's it. Now the game tells me to fucking die. Well, they don't swear, but you know. I feel as though that the developer wanted to tell me something, but I'm not quite sure what. Anyways, I let some enemies murder me and I get sent to the underworld. Basically, you lose everything except your NFTs. Your characters get deleted, and you have to start again. I pick warrior again just because I barely played as them. Now then, would you be surprised if I told you that's all there is? Because that's it. There are some features in the town like voting, which you can only do if you buy Imperial tokens. There's an unimplemented plot ownership, a wave arena which you need a special key to participate, and also a skill trainer where you can literally just buy a boost to level 10, which is the level cap by the way. Now I could end this section right here, but I did play until I got to level 10, or more specifically, level 8, then just bought a boost because the game got so boring and repetitive. All in all, it took around 2 hours. There's no story, no interesting encounters, it's just keep doing dungeons, get equipment, or craft them because the items that were dropping sucked. Gameplay didn't change at all, introduce any fun weapons, or anything else really. I will praise the bosses only a little bit because they actually looked interesting and had some attack mechanics. But a pretty big flaw that I found with the enemy AI is that if I just circle around them, they can't hit me. They must have known this since the developers just gave enemies beam attacks that stick onto you and deal damage. So there's that. But yeah, that's it for the entire game. Nothing major happens at level 10, and it's incredibly repetitive. Let's move on to the NFT Marketplace. The in-game marketplace lets you interact with the crypto. Unlike in, say, Lost Relics, you can only put things up for crypto. You can't sell or buy things for gold, making it a rather useless currency in the long run. You can also exchange crypto for the two in-game special currencies. Because this game, of course, needed more of that. You can get these gems from doing dailies and weeklies. And assuming the daily rewards are not based on luck, you get around 35 each day, 200 for the weeklies, for a total of 445, which is just shy of the exchange of 500 for 29 Eng coins. I don't know how to get these Enginites, but the exchange rate is even lower. So in essence, if you spend several hours grinding in this unfun and boring game every week, you can get around $4.50 every other week. It's like working as a server in the US relying on tips, but somehow not as fun. But hey, what if you get a really good item that you turn into an NFT and then sell? Surely you can make bank that way, right? Surely there are stupider people out there, right? Let's have a look at their marketplace on NFT.io. Here, we can see that the developers have set several thousands of certain items for sale for a couple of bucks. Then we have the player set items that have a few sales in the $2 to $3 range. Now I remind you that these items are not just skins and have actual stats. So if you felt like you wanted to pay to win, you can spend $10 to $20 here to get a full set of NFT items and be able to completely ignore the death mechanic since these items won't disappear on death. Let's look at the highest priced items. Holy crap! Someone is selling a piece of leather armor for 100,000 Eng, which translates to about $15,000. Now I don't really understand what the point of doing this is. Maybe he thinks the game will blow up in the future and he'll get a hefty payday. I have a feeling that's not going to happen though. But still, someone else is counter offering for 500 Eng coin, which is around $75. And even that is too much for this game. Here's a tip, go on Steam and pick any of the top games and buy that instead. Trust me, it'll be more fun. Hopefully there isn't anyone that stupid that will pay that amount, but you never know with crypto bros. Prove me wrong. There is one item here that did get sold for a hefty amount, and that's this one, the multi-shot elven bow, which got sold for 1,000 Eng, which is around $150 or 2 AAA games. Here's the funny thing though. You can see the player activity for each item listing, and this honestly explains NFT owners in a nutshell. If you go to the last page, you can see that Violet Ninja minted then sold it for 1,000 Eng to a person named Cognizant, and Cognizant immediately puts it back up on sale for 1.5 thousand, hoping to get a profit. Then, the next two pages just has them constantly going back and forth from 3.5k, 7k, 4.5k. I'm not entirely sure what they're doing, but someone offered 1.1k, which is more than the initial price, but Cognizant isn't budging. I can only assume it's because the value of Eng coin is constantly fluctuating. I'm too lazy to confirm, but that's my guess. This is pretty common for all currencies, but crypto in general sees the most drastic changes. That's about it for the crypto side of things. The addition of NFT in crypto is never about adding fun to the game. It always turns into an investment and the hope to make money off of anyone stupid enough to buy it, who in turn usually does so in the hopes of making more money from someone even stupider. It's an endless cycle and to me adds no value to the game. Now before we get to my final impressions, let's talk about the developer of this game. Now earlier I touched on the dev blog and I didn't really get into it. However, after a little bit of digging, I found some very interesting things about who I assume to be the head of this whole operation. The blog only names one person in particular, Sam Bayless. Looking at his LinkedIn profile, we see he is currently a partner engineering manager at Microsoft. He apparently has 12 years of experience of C++ and C# and has a passion for game development, which is kind of a funny thing to add to your LinkedIn profile. Scrolling down, we see he lists himself as an indie game developer, claiming 15 years of experience. He only lists Etherscape, but he claims that his games have been downloaded over 1 million times. I tried to, but I couldn't find anything about his past games, except For one, I found a post of his from 5 years ago, listing a Steam game that had been in development for 4 years at that point called Privateers. And here's where it gets especially interesting. Looking at the Steam page for Privateers, it looks extremely similar to Etherscape. From the graphics, to the world map, the enemy designs, the gameplay, all of it. Basically just copy-pasted into Etherscape. Although, Privateers seems to have more stuff in it. The game, however, did not do well at all, with only 5 user reviews and having a peak of 5 players at release. The game also costs $10 USD, and I assume this wasn't an NFT game at the time, which makes sense, as this was before NFTs became, popular in the video game space. One last major thing to note, this game is still in early access. However, the last update was made in November of 2020, and before that, October of 2019. So I think it's safe to say, this game has been abandoned for NFTs and crypto. My condolences to the 5 people who bought this game. Okay, so finally, do I think this is the worst NFT game I've played? Nah, far from it. I can see the foundations for a game here with mechanics and a gameplay loop. I actually preferred this game more than Lost Relics, a game I played on the previous video, and that game looked better and had a similar playstyle. However, I don't think this game is good at all. Gameplay is very slow and shallow and doesn't have any diversity of class builds. The classes I tried out at most had 3 activated abilities and the rest of the skill tree being passives. So for the most part, every warrior is going to be played the exact same, every ranged is the same, and mage, you get the idea. You can argue that it's still an open alpha, but why do they have so many different classes then? They should be focusing on 2 to 3 and expanding on them before adding more. I don't see the need to play as any other class since there's barely any variety in their playstyle. The only reason I could think of would be if you had gotten a good piece of gear for that class, but then I would just assume you would just sell it for crypto. Most if not all the weapons act the exact same, with all of them shooting a projectile, regardless of melee, ranged, or magic types. I will slightly praise the boss designs, however the majority of my enemy encounters were spent just circling around an enemy, which can pretty much avoid most attacks unless they were using that beam spell. Graphically, the game doesn't match the high quality pixel art that's on the splash screen, or on the store page. The items look very basic and character designs? Can't tell, since this game is played top down. The environment looks like it was done in an hour on Microsoft Paint. I mean, the assets were just copy pasted from their previous early access game of more than 5 years, and doesn't seem to have improved since. There's not even any story in the game to string me along, no matter how basic, and after a couple of minutes of tutorials, the game just leaves me out on my own. And that's because there really isn't anything else there. You do dungeons until you get to level 10, which is the cap, then the rest of the game is salvaging loot to craft better equipment to do harder dungeons at a chance at legendaries. Which is normally fine, that's just how looters are, but this game is extremely simple with very little variety. The NFT and crypto, they didn't add anything fun to this game, instead just adding a pay-to-win system like the auction house that was in Diablo 3, but with extra steps since you still need to etherbound your items to even be able to sell them. The implementation could easily be done without the use of the blockchain. For example, just look at the Steam Marketplace. Also, NFTs completely undermined the death mechanic in this game. On the store page, it claims death matters, but you can completely ignore that penalty by having a full set of NFT items that don't disappear, and then proceed to get to max level again by buying a boost. In essence, making death just an inconvenience. Yeah, death matters, only if you're poor. Overall, I think this game is less than mediocre. It is a slower, much worse version of Realm of the Mad God, and I will not accept the excuse of the game being an open alpha, especially considering the fact that the game looks exactly like their previous one, Privateers. Pretty much one-to-one, but with less stuff. In fact, I find the excuse of open alpha significantly worse when you have a fully functioning marketplace where you can exchange for crypto. They have zero excuses. If your game is still in open alpha, you should be focused on the gameplay, adding content and fixing bugs, not the crypto and NFT side of things. But hey, at least the main menu looked good. I give this game a finish your previous game out of 10. That is technically the 6th NFT game I've played on the channel. Once again, please go and watch my previous video to see some more terrible NFT games. It's pretty sad that so far Etherscape is currently the top NFT game I've played, and it's not even good. But it's kind of cheating since it's just privateers with NFTs in it. But now I'm even more curious to see the other NFT games out there, because I'm sure not all of them are going to be older games given the same coat of paint but with crypto. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, comment, and sub, always helps me out. But if you want to see more, here's that video where I play the worst games on the Epic Games Store. Or, if you want something different, here's this video where I play 7 Vampire Survivor clones to see if any of them are doing anything interesting. Anyways, hope you enjoy the rest of your life, and I'll catch you on the next one. See ya!